Allow me to show you the power of Super Saiyan 4.
Yo, what's good everybody? Draconia here with another Dragon Ball Legends video, and today we're gonna do or talk about something I could have done at least some weeks before, and that is talk about part 2 of the anniversary here. I did a part 1 video where I go over different content and decide how well this anniversary's part 1 was. And now we're gonna do the same for part 2. I do this with every Legends Fest and every anniversary celebration we've got. To recap my categories so that you guys know, we're gonna look at the reveal, we're gonna look at the banners, we're gonna look at the new characters, we're gonna look at the content and the meta we are given. Those are the categories I'm gonna look at. And I will have to remind you, there are other factors that gonna come in, like, okay, in theory we're getting a lot of CCs, that's gonna be plus value. We got a lot of Legends Limited Z power, which doesn't help for Legends characters, but we're getting LF Zenkai's throughout this anniversary in the future, so that's very good. There are some things that are not included in this video that obviously would bump up the anniversaries higher, so I think for part 1 we got a 7 out of 10 in total. That doesn't, this number I've got doesn't equal how I actually feel about the anniversary, okay? I'm trying to formulate this in the video content to make it a bit more objective as possible, which is not always 100%. In my case, I can't 100% reproduce that with everything in mind. Some things are really hard to give numbers on. So that's why these are the categories. There are other things that are not included that would obviously contribute to this. And I won't include event exclusive characters, which is gonna have a big factor in this one. But, okay, enough of this explanation. I just want to make very clear what you guys are looking at here. This is the first thing, the reveal. I didn't think it hit as hard as part 1. Part 1 I gave a 10 out of 10. I think content-wise, this is definitely up there, but the units don't hit as hard, and it's mainly because of Charlotte, to be honest. Because what also bumps up the, in my opinion, a reveal is the level of animations we've got, which with this unit, fantastic, no one minds, but with Charlotte, dude, I don't know. His animations are not that great. It's unfortunate. Like, it's clear that out of every all the anniversary units we've gotten, I'm recording this during part 3 by the way, he got the short end off the stick, which shouldn't be the case because it's their game original character. He should be way better. It's just, bro, I can't, the copied animations, the artwork being similar to the fusing Super Gogeta, Heavenless Legends action, bro, it's punching you upwards and then doing a kick. Okay, that's like the normal area change with an additional Legends action kick. That's really it. Like, they didn't do much for his animation. This is unfortunate. So I'm bumping this down, not from a 10 to giving it a 10, I'm giving it maybe a 9. I don't think it's bad. I think the reveal was fine. I just think that's one of the things they fumbled in my opinion. So yeah, 9 out of 10 for this reveal, but it's still good. No big complaint here. Alright, we're gonna now move on to the banners. Now what I'm gonna do is, because these are 2 banners, I'm gonna give the banner each one a point and then divide it by 2 because there are 2 banners. If there are more banners, it would be divided by 3, by 4, whatever, depending on the number of banners. So we get a total number for the banner in total. So, go on and Trunks banner. I gave, and I think this is the best reference to do this, we're gonna look at Broly's banner. Broly's banner I gave a 7, because why it only has, it has sparking, it has an LF character, really good, and a legend character, really good. For the side characters, Nappa was the only one who could say, yeah, he himself is good enough by himself, but the other two units are more like how do you call it, featured boost, A tier boost, PvP units. So they are good for this part 1, but they are bad afterwards. And Dragon Fist is a bench. This banner, in my opinion, doing part 2 is very important. We're not going to look at part 3 because part 3 you're not seeing any of these guys. But part 2, all these characters had big relevancy, more or less. This is a great bench. It's at least a newer Zenkai. These two were meta relevant. This unit was being on 80 boost was relevant. So if one character that is reliant on A boost, a good bench, and the other two are meta relevant units more or less. So, and you can build a team out of it. This is also very important. Gohan, Trunks, Pan, Super Saiyan 2 Gohan during the start of part 2, you could build a team. Later on, you could build a team of Super Saiyan 2 Gohan here, Revival Gohan here, and this Gohan Trunks. So you had options to build a team. Even with Cell, you could build Cell, Gohan Trunks, this Gohan. You had again a team. So team building for this banner was phenomenal for part 2. A lot of these units were not reliant on boost to be relevant. Great 1% sparking, great legend character. So I'm giving this a 10. Now obviously in terms of longevity, obviously it's not holding anything. But I think for part 2 it had everything. A team you could build, a very good legend character, a 1% sparking. Like everything concluded looks very good to me on that banner. So I'm giving this a 10. Because that's the best you can expect from that banner, to be brutally honest. So yeah. Now, Legend Shadow's banner. Again, we're looking, this is part 2. If any of these characters get buffed in after party, that doesn't count. But this character is irrelevant, got the equipment but isn't good. So in total, you are pulling nothing other than Shallot or the supporter. Which I know, again, I'm not going to really count supporters. I mean, this banner also had supporters, older ones, but good ones. They are a good supporter, but this is not. No one really pulls for a supporter. Let's be real. So I'm not really going to count that. And what I said is, the banner, if the character is good, the banner gets minimum a 5 out of 10. However, and this is going to come later, but Charlotte is not that great of a unit in my opinion. Not a horrible unit, but it's not that great. If you compare this, for example, to Gogeta Blue's banner. I said Gogeta Blue is very good, but the banner is bad. It had very similar units here that were all irrelevant. And I gave it a 5 out of 10. I'm not giving Charlotte the same equal level because I think... I mean, you could argue the banner format being obviously better because this is not an Ultra banner, but the character itself is not that great. He is okay, so I'm giving it a 4. It's really there's really little incentivized in part very little incentivized in part 2 to summon for this. Now you could now say, oh, but now we know that Budo is really great. Well, this happened in part 3. This is a purely part 2 perspective. Act as you don't know what part 3 is. And if you don't know what part 3 is, because I'm judging it every single part, then this wasn't a good banner to summon on. That's the reality. So giving it a 4 out of 10 for the banner, sadly. But let's move on to the actual characters here. Now I can use this. Charlotte. What do I give him? This is a bit tricky. My biggest complaint about this character is that he has this blue card, which is... It's not the fact that it's an RG mechanic, it's that the fact that his best mechanic has to be the feint. I don't like feint, it's not a good... It's not fun. And the thing is, he does some useful things outside of this blue card. Like he's supporting, on standby, sub count reduction, cancelling, plus all good abilities and useful stuff. Like he's helping in the back, but his main offensive damage isn't the greatest. Again, his blue card, if it doesn't feint, it doesn't really do much. He's an okay character, but he's not a crazy character in any regard. So I'm leaning towards a 6. I don't know. It's really difficult to shell it. I'm not gonna give him a 7. I think for 7 it needs to be a bit better than that. Or maybe. Okay, let me think. I'm not gonna give him a 5. That would be a bit too cruel. The fate is a minus point. I'm gonna say this right now. His performance is also a minus point. He's not bad, but he's not great. It's just okay. I guess you're there. Let's give him a 7. Nah, 6. 6. I need him more towards 6. Yeah, it's okay. He needed a bit more to be considered a 7 and then an 8. Maybe I will change this, but for now I'll leave it with a 6. Now go on Trunks. Here's the thing. Gogeta got a 9 for me because of his unique gauge, which if you watch the video you hopefully got my explanation. I think Gohan Trunks is a bit overtuned, to be honest, and again, they took a hit in part 3 a bit, but typically speaking, their numbers and how long they can combo and how hard they are to stop are just nuts, because they had insane disrupt, insane damage, rusty. They did too much in my opinion. So I'm not gonna give him a 10. I think a 9 would be unfair to Gogeta, because Gogeta's issue where he got a 9 was such a mini thing, while I think this is a bigger thing which I would give a bigger chance. So I'm giving this an 8. Which is why I'm leaning more towards Charlotte even being a 6, because I think they are not like 1, they're at least 2 points apart. But this is the thing, I think they did a bit too much. Like for Gogeta, he wasn't perfect. 10 for me is perfect, no complaints. I think Gogeta's unique gauge is just a bit counterproductive to what he wants to do, because he's a ranged character and he disincentivizes ranged teams, which I don't like. And these guys did a bit too much. So yeah, 8 for this character. Pan. I think for what she needs to do, she's definitely also 6. Like, from what her purpose is in the game, and that is supporting, she's doing a great job. Survivability is obviously the biggest issue, so I can't give her something like a 7. But I think a 6 is fine. She fulfills her role. I think Pan had even more relevancy than Charlotte in part 2, so honestly giving him the same number. Sorry for the people who think this treating Charlotte, but bro, I don't know. They screwed up with this character, unfortunately. So yeah, I'm giving her a 6. So we're gonna move on to the content we've gotten throughout the anniversary in terms of event exclusives, equipment, stuff like that. I'm not gonna talk about normal events because that's a bit hard to judge here, and that would obviously be too much in the video. Now, again, I'm not gonna count event exclusives, but we're gonna talk about him later. Zaha. 5. I can't give him anything higher. Like, I think his equipment is fine, but the problem is the team. That's kind of the real problem, because let's be real. We got the buff for Zaha and we got Giblet, and you never saw them in PvP. People maybe tried Zaha out, or maybe Giblet for showcase videos if you're a YouTuber, but otherwise you never saw Zaha in any shape or form. His equipment by itself is fine, but if you don't have a properly team that works, game originals, sadly, that doesn't matter. So, Zaha, sadly, you are 5 out of 10. Purple Gohan. It's like Hybrids, in my opinion, was arguably the best team in the game when they got Purple Gohan, because their damage and stuff is insane, and the way the team works together. Future arguably could be also the #1 team. I think most people saw Future as the best team in the game, but I think I think it was like you need to run Future to counter Hybrids all the time, because otherwise they would destroy you. That's how I felt about it. But Purple Gohan by himself isn't that crazy. He's a solid Zenkai. He's not a crazy Zenkai, it's more so the team that enables him to be that great. If he didn't have access to multiple Zenkai buffs on hybrids, he would be arguably not even better than Cell in my opinion, to be really... Like, he has a second life mechanic, okay, yes. I'm not gonna downplay that he can do great damage, I'm not gonna downplay that he has a second life, I don't downplay that he's supporting and helping Gohan Trunks and Blue Revival Gohan, but by himself, it's not that he did insane damage pre-revival or anything. It's really the fact that you have like 2 Zenkai buffs on the bench for Purple Gohan as well, and triple Zenkai buffing Gohan Trunks, like the team thing, what's keeping this character high. So I'm not gonna give this a 10 because this is not a perfect Zenkai in any shape or form. But I think as Zenkai they did well. Bare minimum is, I would think probably an 8. I think 8 is good. Again, it's not a perfect Zenkai. Perfect Zenkai would give this a 9 out of 10. Or a 10, which is not the case. But I think they did a great job in making this character very solid. So yeah, my opinion about this unit here. Now then, moving lastly to the meta, which I'm gonna evaluate next here. I have to remember a bit, because again, it's part 3, part 2 is a week ago, not thinking too much about it anymore. So the first week was obviously dedicated to Gohan and Trunks, but you also saw Gogeta there, and Future, God Key, sometimes a still powerful opponent. Like, I think the mix was fine, and then later shifted more towards, I would say, hybrids and Future, more than anything. But it wasn't a horrible meta. I think it was fine. I will give it a 6. Like, nothing crazy, nothing super bad. I think a Gohan team, it was, you could deal with the team. It wasn't like, oh my god, you cannot do anything against this. But Gohan Trunks damage was kind of insane. So, yeah, I think I'm leaning towards a 6. So yeah, there's that. Now, what we're gonna do is now recap the numbers, because maybe you forgot. I have them written down obviously, but you don't remember everything here. So 9 out of 10 for the reveal, 10 out of 10 for close that, 10 out of 10 for this banner, 4 out of 10 for this banner, a 6 for Charlotte, 8 for Gohan Trunks, a 6 for Pan, 5 for Zaha, 8 for Gohan, and the over meta is I gave 6 points. Now, these are in total 5 different categories, if I didn't miscalculate. Yeah, so we're gonna take those numbers. Now obviously, if there are 2 in one category, 2 things, I'm gonna add those 2 numbers and divide it by 2, and then the whole number of everything is gonna be divided by 5, and the calculator gives us a 7.03 out of 10, so a 7 out of 10 here. Now obviously this feels super weird regarding that part 1 also got a 7, but you have to keep in mind that rounding up and down, so depending on the number. If it's over 5 and rounding up, it's on under rounding down. But I want to keep you guys in mind, again, there are things that are not included in this evaluation that would obviously change how part 1 and part 2 feel. For example, part 1, we had constant meta changes throughout part 1. We still always had content that changed the meta and was relevant in part 1. Part 2 was, in comparison, worse. Think about it. We got the new units which only Gohan Trunks really mattered, Charlotte was Dragon or whatever, that's then Midas in for part 2. Second week of part 2, we got a nothing. These two had nothing, any impact, any shape or form. In fact, I would argue they made it even worse by releasing these two and they're not performing or having any impact, so that's a negative. And then Gohan, where obviously was good, but that was also the only thing we've gotten. So you get, in terms of the amount of content we gotten, how good the content was and some stuff, obviously drags the Anniversaries Part 2 down, which isn't included here, and I didn't include Giblet because if I would have to, for content, I would have given this a 0. Like, no debate. And if we add that there, we would drop it down from a 7 out of 10 to a 6.6 out of 10. You realize how big of a drop that is? But I decided to not include event exclusives because event exclusives in this game at this point are all shit every single time. So I didn't want to do that. But I think you now get what I mean. Don't think too much about these numbers because again, there are stuff that's not included in this part 2 which have a big impact. If you would ask me personally how I feel part 2, I would definitely not give it a 7. I would give it a 5. Brutally honest, because again, in my opinion, this character carries this whole part 2. Because, I mean, Pan is alright, nothing bad about her, but they didn't treat the Charlotte well. Charlotte, I have problems pronouncing it. Charlotte. They didn't treat him well, his animations were not good enough. His kit is not good enough. This is I empathize this in a video. This is a game originals character, not just the own one specific game original, is from their own story. We won't get a lot of these because the story doesn't have like 15 million Charlotte moments and stuff. So if they give us a summonable Charlotte, make him feel more premium, means he has animations that differ him from the one we can use in the story, and obviously make him better kit-wise and don't make him a fainting RNG unit because that's not gonna look good. And also if you're gonna buff this character and he gets too good while having the feint, it's also not fun. So this is with the whole dig there. And then for example Giblet is the definition of disgrace because again, it's a character from their own story and they did treat him horribly. For people who have waited a long while to play Super Saiyan God Giblet, not base Giblet, not the Saiyan Red, God Giblet, how do you feel? Horrible, right? That's me, for example. I feel horrible because I've wanted to use this character because I like how he looks, I like his outfit, I like his god form. I've waited for having a playable version of this character for a while and I hoped, okay, if they're gonna release this guy, he's gonna be great. And look at what we got here. Trash. Garbage. Waste of air. Very sad. So, again, my personal opinion is not that great about this part 2, but this is what the numbers gave me. Maybe I was too generous on some moments, some parts. I don't know. Maybe I should have given some units lower points, I don't know. But anyway, let me know what you guys think personally about the part 2 of the 8th anniversary, and see you guys in the next video. Bye.